Chapter 14. Stelle. Stelle walked into Palace Entertainment with an extra spring in his step and a bright smile on his face. He greeted every person he passed, hummed happily as he went up the elevator, and checked himself on every reflective surface he saw. His hair was perfect that day, and he had worn an especially fashionable outfit that made him all the more confident. Just the day before, Lucien had finally begun to reciprocate at least some of his interest, and Stelle was over the moon. The sudden touchiness had surprised him at first, but the eye contact Lucien had made with him multiple times had a clear intention. Lucien had been flirting. The thought made Stelle smile even wider as he entered the empty break room. He sat at the table with his phone camera trained at his face, making sure he was at his best once Lucien walked in. But he didn't come. Stelle was deflated for hours afterwards, but he did not lose all hope. He knew Lucien was there, confirmed by the flash of red hair he saw just as the man rounded a corner. Despite only seeing him for a moment, Stelle's cheeks warmed thinking about the progress they had made. What finally happened after all the years of pining? He certainly hoped so. Once late afternoon came, Stelle finally had more free time to spare, so he decided to go back to the break room in hopes that Lucien would already be there. As it turned out, he hadn't needed to wait long, as the elevator opened before him, and there was Lucien. His back was turned as he walked away from Stelle, so he could not see his face. Despite that, Stelle noticed Lucien's head tilted upwards, just enough to glance at a camera he was passing. It was a quick, subtle move, but Stelle's body froze in place as he witnessed it. He hadn't imagined that. He knew it. Lucien continued walking, passing the break room to make for the bathroom a little ways away instead, opening the door and disappearing inside. Stelle regained his senses enough to move, rushing to the break room and very quickly closing the door behind him. He fumbled with his phone as he paced the floor, scrolling until he found Melanie's number. There was no way he could keep quiet about all the oddness he had seen, not anymore. Lucien could brush it off all he wanted, but Stelle's anxiety was too great to ignore. He hit the call button and listened as the phone rang. It kept ringing and ringing, every moment that passed making his palms sweat. At last, Melanie answered. "Hello, Melanie Andrews speaking." "Hey, Mel," Stelle said, his voice unsure as he tried to calm himself. "I need to talk to you about something." Melanie paused, tension building between them over the line. "What is it?" "It's about Lucien," Stelle replied, glancing over at the break room door. "Do you remember how he was getting all those random gifts?" "Yes," said Melanie, her seriousness fading a bit. "I think it's more than that, more than some secret admirer leaving him little trinkets. It's going to sound weird at first, but please hear me out." Melanie's voice came through the phone, but Stelle didn't hear any of it. His gaze had shifted from the door to the floor, and in his focus, he failed to register the sound of the door opening. Stelle's head snapped up, his eyes connecting with Lucien Angel's. His face was like a statue, perfectly serene and neutral, but something was off. Stelle struggled to put words to it. It was as if the air between them had suddenly become taut, like a rope was between them, dangerously close to snapping. Lucien's eyes flitted over to Stelle's phone still held to his ear, Melanie's voice seeming loud as a siren in the quiet break room. The man walked to Stelle, plucked the cell phone right out of his hand, and lifted it to his own face. "Mel, is that you?" Lucien asked, his voice jovial. "Lucien, are you okay? Stelle just called me out of the blue and told me he was worried about your admirer." Lucien looked to Stelle, his eye contact boring into him so harshly that Stelle could barely breathe. "Really? That again? Did he tell you the gift stopped?" "No," said Melanie, the concern dissolving from her voice like mist in sunlight. "I wasn't going to say anything, so I didn't embarrass her. I guess I have no choice now," Lucien sighed, shaking his head. "One of the backup dancers confessed it was her, and I had to tell her no." Stelle's mouth was dry, his muscles tight, and his brows furrowed as he tried to register what Lucien was saying. "Oh," Melanie drawled, intrigue thick in her words. "Which one was it?" Lucien shrugged. "Jackie. She just transferred over to Queen Entertainment, so I think that's why she suddenly decided to say something before she left." "That's a shame," Melanie pouted. "I was hoping for some fun workplace drama." Lucien laughed, but it did not reach his eyes, his gaze still intense and trained on Stelle. "Sorry, Mel. I know how boring office life can be." Stelle stopped paying attention after that, his mind riddled with doubt. He did not speak as Lucien hung up and handed the phone back to him. He attempted to find his sanity enough to say something, anything, but Lucien leaned in, just inches away from his face. Lucien looked like a completely different person, and it instilled an emotion in Stelle he had never felt in regards to his fellow idol. Fear. "Stelle," whispered Lucien, his voice sweet as honey. "Are you still with us?" Stelle just barely nodded. "I'm glad. I'll need you to listen to my next words. Can you do that?" He nodded again. "Good boy," Lucien praised, reaching up a hand to rest on Stelle's shoulder. "I'm asking very nicely that you don't ever do something like that again. As much as we see each other, remember that my business is my business. Think of it like two islands. I live on mine, right next to yours, and I stay there. You have your own, and I don't cross over, because that's your island. So why should you?" Stelle's head swam as he listened, his confusion getting to a point that he wasn't sure he could surface from. Had the day before, with all the friendliness, been nothing? Lucien wasn't saying anything threatening, and his voice was kind. So why did he feel such unease? Something was wrong, but he had no proof, and no one else seemed to see what he saw. Was he really being driven to pointless paranoia? Stelle wanted to respond, but Lucien took back his hand and swiftly walked to the vending machine. He got a bottle of water, twisted off the cap, and took a few sips as he sat at the table. It was entirely too normal, as if nothing had happened. Despite that, and despite Lucien sitting right there in the same room, which would usually be a source of happiness, Stelle wanted nothing more than to leave. He took one look over at Lucien, watching as he scrolled on his phone casually. He looked up momentarily, raising an eyebrow. "Something on your mind?" Stelle didn't know what to say to that, so he decided to make his way to the door. As he was about to open it, he heard Lucien speak up again. "Oh, I almost forgot. One more thing." Stelle turned his head, watching Lucien set his phone down on the table, an apologetic smile on his face. "Would you maybe call me something else instead of Angel? I've been meaning to tell you I'm really not the biggest fan of it. Makes me seem, I don't know, too perfect, I guess." On a normal day, that request would be odd, maybe even hurt him a little. But Stelle's thoughts were too turbulent for any of that, so all he said was, "Sure, sorry about that," as he walked out of the break room.